감당할 수 있겠니?
Coming up on Arirang News. The U.S. State Department says it has no plans to forward station tactical nuclear arms on the Korean Peninsula as a stronger deterrent against the North, adding that it was not necessary to redeploy nuclear weapons to the Indo-Pacific. South Korea's overall industrial output rose in April compared to the month before, led by automobile production. But retail sales and facility investments dropped. From the International Mime Festival to K-pop playground, we go to Chuncheon City in Gangwon-do Province, where festivities are underway celebrating the 2024 Korea City of Culture Expo. Good evening. It's 9 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. We start with the U.S. dismissing talk of redeploying tactical nuclear weapons on the Korean Peninsula. This follows a related warning from Russia. Our Lee Seung-jae leads us off.
Amid nuclear threats posed by North Korea, a ranking member of the U.S. Senate Armed Services Committee on Wednesday raised the idea of deploying U.S. tactical nuclear weapons to South Korea to increase deterrence against the regime. To this, Republican Senator Roger Wicker proposed a redeployment of U.S. tactical nuclear weapons on the Korean Peninsula. However, according to U.S. State Department Deputy Spokesperson Vedant Patel on Thursday, the U.S. has no plans to redeploy its tactical nuclear arms on the Korean Peninsula. He emphasized that the U.S. does not see returning nuclear weapons to the Indo-Pacific as necessary. The comments also come as Wicker's proposal was met with a heavy pushback from Moscow. In a recent interview, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov warned that Moscow may consider additional nuclear deterrent steps if the U.S. deploys IRBMs in the Indo-Pacific region. But the U.S. State Department's spokesperson said Lavrov's comments was Russia engaging in nuclear saber-rattling. Patel also condemned North Korea's ballistic missile launches on Thursday and noted Beijing's role in helping address the security challenge from Pyongyang. He also commented on the North's sending of balloons carrying trash and fecal matter to the South earlier this week, calling the move malign and destabilizing. U.S. tactical nuclear weapons were withdrawn in South Korea in 1991, and the country has since stuck to its non-nuclear status, relying on the U.S.'s security commitment. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
A former American diplomat currently visiting Korea says redeploying tactical nuclear weapons to South Korea will not help enhance its security. Another expert says Pyongyang will try to increase its leverage by advancing its missile programs before it considers returning to talks with the U.S. Our Bae Eun-ji is at the Jeju Peace Forum and has the expert's take.
The chief U.S. negotiator during the 1994 North Korean nuclear crisis, Robert Gallucci, has said it's a bad idea for the U.S. to consider redeploying tactical nuclear weapons to the Korean Peninsula. While visiting South Korea for an annual peace forum held on Jeju Island, he said having these weapons on South Korean territory would not improve the country's security.
You're not doing the South Koreans any favors, you're certainly not doing the North Koreans any favors, and you're not doing the United States of America any favors, because you are arguing for weapons of mass destruction to be reintroduced to the environment on the Korean Peninsula.
In a press conference on Friday, he also added that it's important for Washington to work closely with Seoul and to focus on normalizing relations with North Korea before talking about denuclearization.
We should talk about normalization of relations, and only after we succeed to some degree at that, and in so doing reduce the risk that North Korea perceives it must run with the United States of America, only after we succeed in changing that calculation should we think there's any prospect of moving them on their nuclear weapons program, freezing the program, reducing it, never mind eliminating it. We'll get to that, hopefully.
Another expert who took part in this year's Jeju Forum said even if Trump is re-elected, North Korea will only return to talks if Kim Jong-un feels there will be a successful deal.
Remembering the failure of the Hanoi summit and the embarrassment he felt, I don't think he's going to return to talks right away. I think he's going to try to increase his leverage by advancing his missile program first.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump walked out of the Hanoi summit in February 2019 after Kim Jong-un asked for the removal of nearly all sanctions on North Korea in exchange for dismantling the nuclear facility in Yongbyon. Noting that there is 0% chance of negotiation between Washington and Pyongyang under the Biden administration, she said the North will likely continue to engage in provocations this year in order to perfect its weapons capability. 배은지, Arirang News, Jeju.
The South Korean government has issued a strong warning to North Korea about its recent provocative actions. On Friday, the Unification Ministry expressed strong regret over the continued ignorant and irrational provocations towards the South, such as sending balloons filled with trash over the border, jamming GPS signals, and launching ballistic missiles. The ministry stated that the government is closely monitoring the situation, saying that if the regime doesn't stop, it'll take all necessary measures while not overlooking the North's actions. It added that Pyongyang's provocations are a confession of the regime's level to the world, which will not get any of its desired results. The ministry urged the North to prioritize the lives of North Koreans instead of engaging in reckless and futile provocations. South Korea and other countries released a statement regarding their government's respective sanctions against North Korea and Russia. In a joint statement released on Friday, the US, UK, Australia, Japan, EU, and several other Western nations said their recent respective sanctions represent coordinated effort to hold the DPRK and Russia to account in the unlawful arms transfers from North Korea to Russia for use in attacking Ukraine. The statement condemned Russia's veto exercise, which disabled the UN panel of experts monitoring North Korea. It also urged Pyongyang to abandon its nuclear and missile programs and return to diplomacy. Now moving on, in the first event related to the Korea-Africa Summit, President Yoon on Friday discussed strengthening bilateral cooperation with President Julius Maada Bio of Sierra Leone at the presidential office in Yongsan. The two leaders held a summit where they discussed building on current cooperation, such as Sierra Leone's participation in the K-Rice Belt project. Also, with both being current non-permanent members of the UN Security Council, the two talked about protecting freedom and shared values. Sierra Leone is one of 4 African countries that have received official invitations for a state visit to South Korea in light of the Korea-Africa Summit. Now, over in the U.S., Donald Trump has been found guilty on all counts in a historic criminal hush money trial in New York, making him the first U.S. president, past or present, to be convicted of a crime. Eyes are on how Trump's guilty verdict could shake up his bid to return to the White House in November. Our Cha Young-kyung has the story.
Former President Donald J. Trump has become the first former or serving U.S. leader to be criminally convicted in American history. A Manhattan jury delivered the verdict on Thursday local time after a 7-week trial where 12 jurors reached a unanimous decision after deliberating for 2 days. He was found guilty on all 34 counts of falsifying business documents related to a hush money payment made to adult film star Stormy Daniels leading up to the 2016 U.S. presidential election. Saying he's an innocent man, Trump denied any wrongdoing, calling the verdict a disgrace.
This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here.
Meanwhile, The Washington Post insisted that there might be a potential impact on Trump's popularity in the key swing state as approval ratings of Trump have declined to a 2% range due to his guilty verdict. On the other hand, according to political media Politico, the verdict will raise attention and give Trump a more favorable position in the presidential election and increase his approval rating.
I'm a native New Yorker. We support Trump. I never voted for him the first time, but we'll do it this time. It's a disgrace.
There is no legal problem for Trump to run for the presidency because the U.S. federal constitution only requires a candidate to be over 35, have been born in the U.S., and lived there for more than 14 years. However, there are different public opinions because this is an unprecedented case of a president being elected after being sentenced. There are also conflicting views over whether President Joe Biden will benefit from Trump being found guilty, or will Trump gain more support in the election. 차윤경, Arirang News.
South Korea's overall industrial output rose in April compared to the month before, led by automobile production. But retail sales and facility investments dropped. Our Moon Hae-ryun has the details.
South Korea's overall industrial production saw a rise in April this year on the back of a boom in auto production, although spending and investments saw a decline. According to Statistics Korea on Friday, industrial production in April rose by 1.1% compared to the previous month. This is a result of increased production in mining, construction and services, with a rebound following an on-month downturn in March when a 2.3% decrease was recorded, the sharpest drop in nearly 4 years. There was also a significant rise in output from the auto industry, which contributed to the increase, tallying up to a rise of 8.1% on month, which is the largest hike recorded since January last year.
Production in the mining industry decreased for semiconductors, but production for automobiles and chemical products increased by 2.2% compared to the previous month.
Semiconductor production showed a decline of more than 4% compared to March, logging 2 straight months of on-month decline. However, the agency explained that this was due to the base effect, with the country's chip industry showing robust recovery at the start of the year, and pointed out that compared to the same month last year, it rose by more than 20%. A spokesperson from Statistics Korea said that although production has generally performed well, consumption of the produced goods has been unable to keep up. Retail sales, a key measure of private spending, showed a 1.2% drop on month, while sales of non-durable goods such as cosmetics and semi-durable goods such as clothes rose. Sales of durable goods such as cars fell. Facility investment also saw a downswing of 0.2% due to a slowdown in the machinery sector. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
South Korea's national tax revenue recorded a sharp drop for the first 4 months of the year, raising concerns about a potential annual shortfall. Data from the Finance Ministry released on Friday showed that revenue from January to April dropped more than 8 trillion won, or around $6 billion compared to the same period last year. It's mainly due to a fall in corporate tax collected due to operating losses suffered by large conglomerates such as Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix. When compared to the budget for this year, the revenue collected accounted for just around 34%, which is lower than the 38% recorded during the same period last year. South Korea's new long-term plan for electricity supply has been unveiled amid growing demand for energy. The country aims to build 3 new nuclear reactors by 2038 to cut carbon emissions. Our An Sung-jin with the latest.
South Korea is turning its eyes to carbon-free energy sources. The Committee for Long-Term Electricity Supply and Demand delivered its plan to the government on Friday amid efforts to curb carbon emissions and increase the use of renewable energy. The plan, which highlighted the use of nuclear power, included the aim of building up to 3 new nuclear reactors by 2038. It's the first time since 2015 for the biennial energy blueprint to outline the construction of new nuclear reactors. The country's energy blueprint also featured plans to build SMRs, or small nuclear reactors, by 2035. SMRs have a power output of up to 300 megawatts and take up much less space, only 1/3 of the space of a conventional nuclear power plant. This gives enhanced safety and greater flexibility in terms of possible installation sites. Being the world's 8th largest carbon emitter, South Korea is looking at SMRs as a viable alternative energy source to help the country cut carbon emissions. The country is also looking to triple its infrastructure for solar and wind energy by 2030. It aims to increase the share of renewable energy in its electricity sources from 40% in 2023 to 70% in 2038. Every 2 years, the government sets a new energy blueprint for the next 15 years. 안성진, Arirang News.
In the ongoing medical dispute, the government has unveiled more measures to bring trainee doctors back to work. Also announced were plans to improve medical specialty sectors. Our Choi Soo-hyung has the latest.
It's been over 100 days since around 12,000 trainee doctors or residents walked out of their hospitals to protest the government's healthcare reforms. On Friday, the Health Ministry once again urged them to return, saying it would minimize any disciplinary action they face by imposing different penalties based on their period of absence. Moreover, the ministry added that it will increase financial support for their future training, among other measures.
Government will significantly expand support for residents training to an unprecedented level under the plan to strengthen national financial investment.
As part of financial support for essential medical services, payment for highly difficult operations such as kidney transplants will be increased by up to 186% from approximately $3,300 to over $10,000. Furthermore, continuous working hours for residents, which are excessive compared to international standards, will be reduced from the current 36 hours to between 24 and 30 hours. After much discussion, the Education Ministry confirmed on Thursday that the medical school quota for next year will be 4,565 students, including 1,509 new ones. Almost 5,000 doctors continue to protest the plan until late Thursday night, warning of another bigger fight. Meanwhile, the government said on Friday that following the confirmation of medical school places for next year, the collective action by the doctors was now meaningless. Under the government's medical reform plan, it will have also increased the number of medical school professors by 1,000 by 2027. Choi Soo-hyung, Arirang News.
The ruling People Power Party on Friday announced its first set of bills in the new National Assembly, a combination of 31 bills in 5 fields focused on improving people's livelihoods. One core objective is establishing a government body focused on tackling the low birth rate. The party hopes to expand childcare leave and improve gender equality at the workplace to create a better environment for raising children. It'll also push to abolish taxes on financial investments, reform the inheritance tax rate, and strengthen support for real estate fraud victims. The announcement was made during a 2-day PPP lawmakers workshop. Just yesterday, the main opposition Democratic Party announced its first bill proposals. Now on the cultural front, the annual Korea City of Culture Expo is currently underway in Chuncheon, Gangwon-do Province. Our culture correspondent Song Yu-jin tells us what the event is and what you can expect at this year's edition.
Chuncheon, Gangwon-do Province is famous for its spicy stir-fried chicken 닭갈비 and as the filming location of the hit drama Winter Sonata. But there is a lot more for visitors to explore over the next few days. For example, the 2024 Korea City of Culture Expo. The Culture Ministry has so far designated over 20 cities across Korea as cities of culture. These cities receive government funding to further develop their unique cultural assets and tourist attractions. Since 2021, the cities at the expo have their own booths to showcase their culture, with this year being the event's 4th edition.
Over the course of 5 years, we've designated 28 cities as cities of culture. We've gathered here in Chuncheon to showcase and compare the diverse culture that each city has. This festival-like celebration allows people to see firsthand the development and transformation of each region after being designated as a city of culture.
While big cities can be grand and glamorous, small cities have this easygoing and simple vibe. Chuncheon is a perfect example of this. Our city has been named the best city of culture for 2 consecutive years. So as a Chuncheon resident, the fact that our city is hosting this expo as the chair city this year is even a bigger honor.
Ahead of Friday's opening night festivities, a K-pop dance concert called K-pop Playground was held, featuring girl group Haiki and renowned dance crews Ambitious and Holy Bang from the reality shows Street Woman Fighter and Street Men Fighter. But the highlight was the expo's opening performance. In collaboration with the Chuncheon International Mime Festival, one of the world's top 3 mime festivals alongside the UK's London Mime and France's Mimos Mime Festival, the opening performance Fire City featured mime acts and a grand fire show. So for those wanting to experience Korea's diverse regional cultures, this year's Korea City of Culture Expo runs here at the Event Plaza next to Legoland until June 2nd. 송유진, Arirang News, Chuncheon.
Today, the last day of May, the sun is shining strongly with clear skies across the country. However, there's rain forecast for the central areas and Gyeongsang-Buk-do province tomorrow. The rain will start in the northern part of Gyeonggi-do province tonight and will be centered on the Seoul metropolitan area overnight. It will subside at dawn in Seoul, but sporadic rain will begin again in Gangwon-do province tomorrow morning. It will continue back and forth around the eastern parts of the country throughout the day tomorrow. Just 5 to 20 millimeters of rain is expected. However, in Gangwon-do and Gyeongsang-Buk-do provinces, you should be careful of heavier bursts of rain with thunderstorms and gusts from tomorrow afternoon. Some areas will continue to have rain until Sunday. Tomorrow, Seoul, Gwangju, and Daegu will start off at 16 degrees Celsius. It will move up to 26 in Seoul and Gyeongju, Daegu 27 degrees. The sky will be mostly clear without any news of rain for the time being. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world. Well, that brings an end to this newscast tonight. Thank you for watching. Hope everyone has a great weekend and a good night.
Lotte takes a new leap beyond its boundaries.